in sight, and this is the Indiana Libertarian Update for the week of March 27, 2017. We are keeping it all in the state this week. These are some of the articles we've recently shared from Phyllis Klosinski. You're really going to enjoy today's interview. Phyllis is here with a little more about herself and a lot more about what is happening at the Indiana State House this legislative session. We've got that in just a few minutes, but first let's check on libertarian events from around the state of Indiana. The Libertarian Party of Allen County will have their libertarian meeting at the Kroger Coventry Deli. I guess we can meet in most any place there in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and apparently they'll be riding of unicycles and giant M&Ms. I don't know what they've got going on in Fort Wayne, but it's going to be happening this Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Be sure to check it out if you're in the northern part of the state. The Young Americans for Liberty at Indiana University have something going on in the southern part of the state. On Thursday, this coming Thursday, they got the fourth state. Meet the Surveillance State. That's going to be happening on the campus of Indiana University, Valentine Hall, room 147. John Mustamain, visiting lecturer at the Maurer School of Law and an expert on relationship between cybersecurity and First Amendment rights, will be joining the YAL for this discussion. Okay, in my stomping grounds of years ago, the Higher Fellowship will be hosting the Handcuff County legalization rally. That's this Saturday, April 1st, from noon to 2 p.m., and that's going to be happening on the steps of the Handcuff County courthouse there in beautiful downtown Greenfield, Indiana. That'll be interesting to see how that's received by the local constabulary there in beautiful Greenfield. Moving down the road a little bit, we're going to the Libertarian Party of Marion County. They'll have their county convention this Saturday from 1:30 to 3 p.m. That'll be happening at the Irvington branch of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library. That's right on Washington Street. They're on the east side of Indianapolis. They're, again, trying to make this a little more accessible, getting outside of the trusted confines of the Antelope Club for this year's convention. And again, that is this April 1st. Don't be a fool. Be sure to get to the county convention here in Indianapolis. On Monday, April 3rd, Jordan Page will be at Purdue University at Fowler Hall. That's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. Not only will he be playing his special brand of anti-statist music, he'll also be talking more about his initiatives to help secure legal cannabis for folks nationwide. The Boone County Libertarian Party is going to have their meeting and convention. That's going to be April 3rd on Monday of next week. That happens from 6:30 to 7 p.m. at Books and Brews in Zionsville, Indiana. This will be their county convention. And so county conventions at this time of year, it's all about choosing delegates. There's very few, if any, races to be chosen, any candidates to go through. So again, this is all about choosing those, choosing the delegates to the state convention. And of course, there might even be some bylaw work going on as well. The folks in Tippecanoe County will be having their Libertarian County Convention. That happens on Monday, April 10th at Spurlocks there in Lafayette, Indiana. Folks in the Libertarian Party of LaPorte County will have their meeting and convention on April 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. They went and got a room at the LaPorte Hotel and Conference Center, the Best Western right there in LaPorte. So be sure to get up there and check that out in the northern part of the state. The Hamilton County Libertarian Party, the Hamilton County Convention will be held on Thursday, April 13th at 6:30 p.m. Barley Island Brewing Company, and that's right there in Noblesville, Indiana. Should be a pretty good turnout for those folks, and there's a lot of growth going on with the Libertarians in Hamilton County right now. The Libertarian Party of Marion County is going to have their regular meetup on April 20th. This is done in conjunction with Dingus Day, therefore the Sausage Fest. For those of you who are not aware of Dingus Day, it celebrates Polish heritage, and you can enjoy some fine Polish food there at the Antelope Club in beautiful Indianapolis, and that goes from 7 to 9 p.m. Brad Klopfenstein and all the folks with the Antelope Club will have a great spread going on. It should be some good times, too, so be sure to check that out. And don't forget, the 5th through the 7th of May, it is the state convention. That's going to be happening down in Evansville on the banks of the Ohio. There'll be a casino to donate your money to, and just in case you're tired of donating your money to the state, You just speed up the process a little bit and throw some at the casino. There's a lot of food, a lot of fun to be had. There's going to be a pretty interesting race for the state chair this year, and it's all going to play out that first weekend in May. And I also have some good news. It's not going to conflict with the Grand Prix race here in Indianapolis, which I always have been conflicted on that in the last couple of years. Okay. Now, as promised, she's a prolific producer of libertarian analysis, and we're happy that she shares that analysis with us, and we're very happy to share just a little bit more of her with you. Here's Phyllis Klosinski. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Indiana Libertarian Update. We've got a special interview this week. So many times we focus on folks who are active here in central Indiana, maybe as officers. We don't get to talk to a lot of the folks who are in other parts of the state, but this is the exception this week. We're joined by Phyllis Klosinski. If you've had a chance to read any of her articles that we have distributed from time to time here at the Indiana Libertarian Update, but you'll also get those through the Libertarian Party of Indiana. She's a fantastic writer and has done a great job of keeping the libertarian perspective on the State House in the forefront this year. Phyllis, begin by telling us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where do you come from? And what do you want?
Well, I'm just an ordinary old lady who was born in Mishawaka, Indiana, and transplanted down here in Brown County 45 years ago, and we've grown roots here. I worked since I was 12 years old as a child, mowing grass, raking leaves, whatever. Then I had a job as a waitress, as a bartender, as a chef, a cleaning lady, sanitarian, and a bank associate. So whatever was available, I did. And in the meantime, I raised a family, and I'm a wife for almost 50 years, a mother, a grandmother, and a caregiver for dying parents. So basically, it's been a life experience. And the reason I get into what's going on with the state of Indiana is because of the issues that I've run into over the years, taking care of people and building a home. Absolutely. So that's basically who I am. I'm just a regular person.
Now, how long ago did you become involved with libertarian politics? Has this been something in the last couple of years, or have you been around forever and a day?
I was born a libertarian. What you see is what you get. It's basically a way of life. I think most of the people in my generation have the same attitude I do. Let and let live. Help if you can. And don't push your views or your positions on anyone else, especially government. Don't have government control. My grandfather came directly from Italy, coming out of a situation there that was very, very bad. I've known a lot of immigrants who came from war-torn Europe, and the position that they have is they want government to leave them alone. Of course, it was much worse there than it is now. They're actually killing people. But, so you grow up with that philosophy, and everybody, in fact, I got involved with politics here in Brown County through Al Cox. He was the county chairman for years, who passed away probably 3 years ago. And we just ran into each other by accident. We started talking, and he said, well, I could use some help. Could you give me a hand? Well, I said, I'd be glad to. Then I met Chris Spangle, and he got me in trouble by starting me on reviewing bills for his legislative think tank that he was running at the time, when he was the, I think he was the chairman. He held a position with the LPIN. And he started me on this. And then when he quit that position and someone else took over, things sort of went downhill. There wasn't that much attention to bills that were going through. They were concentrating more on getting people elected. And my position has always been, the problem with the Libertarian Party is people don't understand what you are yet. And until you can show them how something that's being done to them is going to affect them. In other words, digest the bill and tear it apart. So this is going to have this effect on you, this is going to take away this freedom, and it's not going to stop. They don't understand your position. And you have that great position that you need to get out there. Now, I understand you need to get elected, but when people have grown up with two major parties, domineering parties at that, and to be honest with you, my parents were both Democrats. And we had constant arguments about things. Yet they lived a libertarian lifestyle, but they wouldn't vote for anybody but a Democrat. Explain that one.
Yeah. I'm going to back you up just a little bit here because I think that your pathway to to helping out at the party level is pretty interesting because you mentioned a couple of names who are remarkable people. The late Al Cox,
yes.
I had a pleasure of meeting just a couple of times. What a kind and involved person, and just the mention of his name really brings up some good memories of a remarkable person in the Libertarian Party. And he very much so represents the foundation and the founding of the party. And then you go forward to Chris Spangle, who represents a lot of the younger libertarian action. So I think that's really interesting how, at the intersection of these two different people, we find Phyllis Klosinski. That's fantastic. Now, I too can empathize with coming from a primarily Democrat household and some of the disputes that has led to. I'm also finding that many people would be really talented, they are living libertarian.
Exactly.
Now, your contribution most recently has been in helping us decipher, and in the realm of communication, putting the state legislature through the lens of libertarianism. Let's talk big picture first. What is the big picture at the State House this year? If you had to characterize it in just a couple of sentences or paragraphs, how would you describe the Indiana State House in 2017?
Very unfriendly towards individual liberty and individual rights. One of the main problems, one of the main issues that I took on was the constitutional carry. And while that looks like it's going to fall by the wayside, for about the fourth year in a row, the same gentleman has brought it up, and we've gone through the same steps. Another bill, which is a right to carry if you receive a restraining order, if you've been a victim of violence. And people do not understand what these bills are, and that's basically what I've been trying to do, is explain what they are. The impression for constitutional carry, for example, was, well, everybody's going to have a gun, everybody's going to be shooting, all the bad guys are going to be carrying around sackfuls of rifles and kill everybody on the street, and that's not what constitutional carry is. If you're not a proper person, you still will be arrested if you are caught with a firearm and put in jail. All it does is allow the innocent person the right to self-defense. And the first thing in all constitutions, and especially the one in Indiana, is a right to life. You don't have a right to life if you can't defend it. So this restraining order bill that is in trouble now, that they're trying to pass, would allow someone who receives a restraining order, who has been a victim of violence, to carry a firearm without receiving a license to carry for 60 days. But if they don't get a license, it's done. You can't carry. And it's unfortunate that people keep thinking this means anybody who gets a restraining order for any reason at all is going to get a gun, and we're going to have all kinds of people out there with guns. Well, in the first place, if they're a proper person, they have the right to have a firearm to protect themselves, regardless of having violence committed against them. Then I have the group that says, well, they're going to shoot cops. I have never understood why policemen can be armed to the tooth and covered with body armor, yet they're afraid of an average citizen to have the same right. That's not the way the institution of the United States was supposed to be founded. We're supposed to be equal with our government, so we can defend against it. So that, the DNA sample. If you're arrested for a felony, they automatically take a DNA sample and put it in the national database. Now, they're supposedly using it just for identification. Would you like to tell me what you'd have to go through in order to identify somebody with a DNA sample that you couldn't do by a photo or a blood sample? What they're doing is trying to tie individuals by self-incrimination to other crimes. And they've even stated that. Yet they still insist.
Privacy rights have certainly been an issue, and I absolutely see the issue with collecting DNA samples for anybody who's who's convicted. Is it even convicted, or do you just have to be accused of
just arrested?
Just arrested.
The one this year is just arrested for a felony, and you cannot have that DNA sample removed unless you are acquitted of all felony charges. That's another catch. Every bill that I've reviewed, if you've read any of the reviews, there's all little catches in there that people tend to overlook.
Well, that's one of the things I think when you look at modern legislation, that's a very real problem. Legislation should be 1 page, 2 page, straightforward, easy to read, easy to understand. But what we see, whether it be at the national level or the state level, we have layers of the onion, things snuck in, conditions, backroom deals. What should be a relatively simple piece of legislation to make government act ends up being a way to sneak things past the voting public, make deals, reward your cronies, so on and so forth. So, in your eyes, you mentioned the concealed carry as being one of the problems this year.
Right.
Also, the DNA submissions. What other ones? What other pieces of legislation do you think are of special to concern to those of us who favor individual rights this year?
Well, the marijuana for medical use, that had a number of bills. Only 2 are alive. One is basically worthless because all it is a prohibition against prosecution, but it doesn't contain any approval for use. The one that's still alive that approves use has so many conditions. I wrote them down to remind myself. The first is, it only applies to intractable epilepsy. Now, when the bill first came out, you had to be 18 or under. They removed that, so it's any age, which is good. But you still only have the one disease, which is probably about 4 of them altogether. Then they have reduced the active ingredient in there. It used to be higher. They reduced that down. But the qualifications alone are totally ridiculous. You had to have been on 3 prior treatments that failed before you can apply for the use of marijuana. Then there's going to be a marijuana registry. Now, the State Board of Health is supposed to be doing this. They're supposed to develop the registry program. Then they're supposed to be, everyone who's involved in either taking it, dispensing it, or recommending it has to have certification through this program and a card approving them and pay a fee. Then one of the worst
layer of government.
one of the worst parts is the State Board of Health going to have to hire more personnel to administer this program? They're supposed to allow this reduced form of medication then to be able to be studied by schools, institutions, and see if they can propose more diseases that they might help. Well, if the physician doesn't know if something's going to help, why do you have to send it through a school? But one of the worst things that bothers me is the people don't have the awareness to know that the federal government still controls the use of marijuana when it comes to your right to self-protection. The Ninth Circuit Court has just ruled recently that even if you have an approved medical marijuana use card, you can still not receive a firearm. So anyone who joins this program is exempted from even applying. And that's wrong. There is no reason to believe that someone on this type of medication is any more dangerous than somebody on along with the other stuff that you see 20 or 30 side effects from. The whole thing is totally ridiculous.
Well, the pure lunacy of the prohibition of cannabis is really evident in this day and age, especially as we see in free states. We see reduced numbers of deaths from opioid overdoses. Even in states where recreational marijuana has been approved, they're seeing a drop in the use of cannabis amongst young people. And the data is there to prove it, but our politicians here in Indiana seem determined to avoid that. My concern with the cannabis bill, and this is something I see in folks who are really into legalization, on one hand you have the people, and I understand this, it is an incremental step. It is a very small step, and it's an important step for a state like Indiana. But my concern is, where I'm falling on this, is this really do-nothing law will be used as a rationale to do nothing in coming year. I'll point to it and say, well, we got legal cannabis oil. What more do you want?
You only have it for 3 diseases.
Yeah. I know. Goodness. So, is there anything positive we can take away from this legislative session here in 2017?
Yes, seizure of property. It used to be that the whole process, and I haven't reviewed it yet. I did go through it because you mentioned that was one of the things you were interested in. There is a connection that the federal government makes, and a lot of prosecutors were simply changing their cases and filing them through the federal government so that the federal government would have control of the seized property. That has been removed from Indiana if this bill does go through. They will no longer cooperate with the federal government. That doesn't mean the federal government will seize your property, because you know they've got the authority just to come in and do it on their own. But it would stop Indiana prosecutors from trying to circumvent the system and send it over to the feds to where seizure was absolutely guaranteed. In this case, they must prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you now have acquired that property improperly before they can have it forfeited. And if you're innocent, supposedly you're going to get it back without going through all the rigmarole that we had in the past. But like I said, I haven't digested the whole bill. There's a couple of questions in there that I need to look up before I can tell you exactly.
Yeah, I think this is going to be, that is a very promising piece of legislation. One of the complaints and one of the rationales I've heard from county prosecutors, including Curry here in Indianapolis, is that, well, we have to have that money. It's part of our budget. How can we do our jobs without the sweet, sweet government money? Oh, it's really frustrating when you look at civil asset forfeiture ruling. So hopefully there is some progress made on that in 2017. Anything else you'll point to as a positive to take away this year?
Let's see. There was a positive on voyeurism using drones. It protects your privacy. To be honest with you, most bills that I go for to review have a great deal to do with individual rights. And all of those, there is nothing positive in any of them. And that's the thing that really bothers me more than anything else. That they can take an oath to the Constitution, take an oath to the hierarchy law of the state of Indiana, that they cannot violate the Indiana Constitution. And they do it all the time. And the response I got, because I've been questioning legislatures for the past 20 years. The response I got was, well, we can pass whatever we want, and you have to go to court to prove that it's unconstitutional. That's not what the Constitution says Indiana states. Now, we're electing people who supposedly know what their job is. They take an oath of office based upon it, yet they have that kind of attitude. We have a problem.
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things it's getting to a point where the very legitimacy of our state and of our government at the state or federal level really comes into question. When civil asset forfeiture, the law clearly states, and I understand this to be in the Constitution, that those funds are supposed to be for the general school fund. Kids aren't getting that money. That's just one example of the government run roughshod over our individual rights. But I think my take on this is, individuals, if the government really looked at us as individuals, so many of these problems would be solved. But there's no interest in keeping us and viewing us as individuals so long as we get into the groupthink and realize our assignment to one group or another. It's very easy to keep people distracted and keep people pitted against each other and willing to take something from one group to give it to another. Just
exactly.
You're a partner. Okay. Well, if people want to see your writings, what's the best way to check out your articles and your interpretation of legislation and other things?
Well, it's been published on LPIN, and I've been sending it over to you, and you've been starting to publish it. What we really need to do, if the Libertarians believe that what I'm writing is promoting libertarianism, because I don't claim myself to be anything other than me. I mean, that's just the way I was raised.
You do a great job. Make no mistake about it, Phyllis. You really do. Well,
Alcoxing, we hit it off as soon as we met. Probably because I was used to dealing with older people all my life. So, he and I had the same feeling. He grew up the same way I did. But what we need to do is get the word out there. So we need to find a way to share the information about this kind of legislation and I'm very careful to write no way except executive way, because I want you to think about what this bill says and what it does to you.
We really appreciate the work that you've done. Do you have any parting thoughts before we let you get back to this beautiful Friday here in Indiana?
Well, if you have any questions about any certain bills that you'd like me to review?
One thing that I've wanted to ask you about before we close the door on this day, and you did write something about this recently, the education reform. What happened with education in 2017?
Are you talking about the medical screening? The one I just sent
you?
Okay. That one is horrendous. People really need to read that to understand what's going on. The General Assembly of the State of Indiana is the only proper authority to legislate law. That's in the Constitution. What they have done is give school corporations not laws to follow. What they've said is corporations may do this, and by not saying shall, by saying may instead of shall, they're eliminating the law. So when I reviewed this mental screening for schools, I was surprised to find out that some schools, if they take up the decision to do so, may inspect students for various diseases. It's in the review. And the mental screening now is proposed to being able to be done by schools. But the problem with that is there is a little part of another title that wasn't even mentioned in this addition to education for mental illness and screening, and that is the immunity statutes of the state of Indiana. Now, according to the immunity statutes, a school employee may not be held liable for anything that happens as a result of any of these medical inspections or screenings of students. So what that says is the parents will have no recourse to recover anything should something adversely happen to their students because of one of these medical inspections.
Interesting. And that's definitely...
How many of you know that? Do you realize that that's going on?
That's insane. And, well, as a person who has recently left the government school system, and I spent 8 years working as a teacher in traditional and non-traditional schools, and this is a subject for another time. This is its own show for certain. I see schools for what they are. It's not about education.
No, it's not.
Realization of the of an individual's aptitude. It's about control. It's about compliance. And now they're crossing the line not only to control the mind, they're actually going to take that a step further and increase the amount of control they have on the physical person of our students and our children. That is deeply troubling.
But my problem is, why do parents allow it? Why are they allowing these school boards to adopt such things?
We, as libertarians, ask that question on so many issues. How do these things happen? How do people keep voting? I mean, one of the things that's come up in the last couple of days is the situation with Ricker's convenience stores. They have found a way to round in the cold beer laws. They have put some restaurants in a couple of their convenience stores, and as such, they can sell cold beer in those stores. The Indiana GOP and our GOP-led state house has not been able to get Sunday sales for decades. That issue's been happening, but it took them less than 48 hours to take action when their precious cronies were compromised at in the bar and liquor industry. And that's just typical of what we face as libertarians. Okay, I am on my own rant, and this is supposed to be your opportunity to rant about anything.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to add before we get out of here today?
I think that's about it. If you read any of my reviews, you'll see that there's plenty to be concerned about, and I really don't know how to get at it except to get the information out. The lack of information that people are getting, and the false information. Just like I said, on the restraining order bill, on the constitutional carry, on this education bill, and what about the education bill that failed for school vouchers? Did you read that one?
Yes.
Some voucher when you have to maintain what the standards are that the state says or you're going to lose the money.
Well, so
That's
much of that
freedom.
seems to have to do with the relationship with the federal government as well, and the things that schools have to abide by to get funding. It is a mess. Well, Phyllis, we thank you for taking the time to join us today. Now, if you have anything that comes up on your radar that you think the people need to know about, you will be in touch, correct?
I will definitely zip it on over to you.
Absolutely. And I would encourage any of our viewers who have questions, who want to know more specifics about a piece of legislation, you can find Phyllis on Facebook, or you can just send a message to me, and I'll be happy to pass that along here at Indiana Libertarian Update. Phyllis,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time on the... Well, a great communicator in the Indiana Libertarian movement, that's Phyllis Klosinski. It was a real treat getting to meet her online and speak with her. Remarkably savvy and remarkably insightful in her analysis of what's going on at the State House. Okay, Indiana Libertarian Update returns next week with Jordan Page. We had hoped to have him on this week, but he got a little backed up with his schedule, and we weren't able to make that, but luckily Phyllis was able to step in for us. But we will be chatting with him about his concert next week at Purdue University, as well as his work as a cannabis advocate. If you have a news story, event, or meeting you want us to pass along, just send us a message via Facebook or drop me an email. That's jsipe@sipesociety, jsipe@sipesociety.com. The Indiana Libertarian Update is a production of sipesociety.com. I am your one-man education and online content consultant. Until next time, I am Jason Sipe, and I'll see you on the computer.